their children. And somebody, I was describing it, I was thinking about this and talking about it and saying, look, what is this? It doesn't make sense. I was really angry at the issue, and somebody said to me, imagine that your daughter, right, has come to you 3-4 times a day telling you that they're hungry or that she's hungry, and you're unable to prepare the main stew. You've looked around you, there's nothing. And I said, look, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse for people to vandalize other people's property, for people to steal other people's and destroy other people's businesses. We're getting to that point where, in fact, we've gotten to that point already. If people can take to the streets to vandalize businesses, trucks loaded with food, or going to deliver food. Look, what people don't understand is that truck that you see on the road, somebody paid for it. Somebody bought the goods on it or in it, right? It's not free. It's not government's food most of the time. It's somebody who's struggling like you to also put food on the tables, on their family's table, trying also to make ends meet to feed their family. Imagine that you're that businessman who has invested so much in buying food stuff that you're about to sell somewhere else. What is going to happen is, if this continues, just like petrol tanker drivers said they were going to down tools, you're going to see people who say, look, I can't continue, this frustration is too much. You frustrate people out of business, and what happens is other parts of this country may not be able to also buy food, because some of those trucks are taking food to those parts of the country to sell. And if more people decide, look, we're not going to be in this business anymore, there's going to be exacerbated hunger. The hunger is going to increase. Now, if you vandalize a truck today and the person says, I'm not going to, or the people in that business say, we're not going to load the trucks again, we're not going to pass, we're not going to pass with food again, which truck will you vandalize next? And this is also a call to government and people in government at all levels. So when we talk about government, a lot of times people just attribute it to the federal government. No, government at all levels must do what they can to ensure that this hunger is assuaged. This hunger is brought to the barest minimum. Because if we continue to have people who, look, we're going to throw this country in chaos. Who would be next? Politicians must look at this situation critically. If innocent people can have their cars vandalized and destroyed because some people think that they are, after all, they're wealthy. I say this, I started saying this in 2014. God, it's been a while. For over 10 years now, I've been saying that if the people get pushed to the wall and they stop, they can no longer attack ordinary people, the next victims would be those who feel like they're high and mighty. A day would come where, if you're driving a regular car, people would perceive you as wealthy and attack you for just driving a car, that you may have sweated and saved for your salaries and all for years to buy, for just driving a car. Some people would look at the house that you're leaving and think, oh, this one has stolen our money, and they would attack you for that. For working so hard to be able to afford a car or a house, people would attack you. Let's be careful. Because one day we might look, today it's just anybody who's been attacked. Tomorrow, the convoys of security agents and agencies who follow you around may not be able to protect you. The people are powerful. We've seen countries that were overrun, government was overrun by the people. Hunger is a motivation, and many times it's not a positive motivator. It motivates people in the wrong direction. Government is doing its best. The federal government is doing a lot. But again, people want results. The vice president yesterday in that virtual meeting with, the agricultural sector and business people, is saying, look, the average man doesn't care about GDP. They don't care about the GDP of the nation. They don't care about all of those statistics that we talk about. What they care about is that they're able to feed themselves, transport themselves, get quality health care or good health care. And Nigerians are not even asking for much. That's the truth. Nigerians do not care about so much. What they want is to be able to feed themselves. Mostly pay their rent and just leave. Nigerians actually are not asking for much. We're not asking for so much. Just the basic things. Abraham Maslow's law or hierarchy of needs. Food, shelter. Look, just the basics. Food, shelter. That's all Nigerians want. Is that too much to ask? They're not even asking government to feed them. They're saying make the food available and affordable so that they're able to find them. And that's the truth. The Vice Human Development Index is saying it doesn't care. Nigerians don't care. The average Nigerian doesn't even want to know who his House of Rep member is. They don't even want to know. And which maybe is the problem. Maybe it's what has kept us where we are. Because when you don't ask for much, you end up not receiving anything. Nigerians are so simple, like very simple. They just want to be able to afford the basic things and just live their lives. It's scary. It's getting out of hand. Somewhere in Dakwa, people are threatening to join terrorist organizations because of hunger. Again, like I used to say, everything in this world is marketing. If you're able to sell me a better life or a better ideology, I would buy. If you're able to pay more attention to me, I would also give you my attention. If the terrorists, look, we have situations where people prefer to pay taxes to terrorists and believe terrorists to even protect them more than state security apparatus. That's a bad place. That's a bad signal. And if people can trust and rather tilt towards terrorism and consider, if someone can sit down and consider becoming a terrorist because of hunger or something as against being a law-abiding citizen, then we do have a lot of problem on our hands. Again, we used to talk about how insecurity was far away from us. Today it's closer. We're talking, people are talking about how there's food insecurity and how hunger was ravaging the Northeast and all. We had humanitarian crisis in the Northeast. That humanitarian crisis now has spread across the country. And if people cannot find food, they just may become something else. A guest on this show on Monday or so, was it Monday or Tuesday now, told us how a senator had gone back home to his people and was personally involved in distribution of rice and food to the people because he wants them. He foresaw it. He wants for them to be able to say, "Oh no, leave this one," when they begin to rise. He seems to have foreseen something. Is he talking to his colleagues in the Senate? Is he talking to his colleagues in the National Assembly? It seems like most of them are seeing it, because I mean, we've had those conversations, we've seen those conversations in the National Assembly, the Senate in particular, where the Senate president has said no option should be left unconsidered. Nothing. What the Nigerians need is food. Apparently, they all know it. They all know it. What can we do to salvage this economy? All hands must be on deck, irrespective of political affiliation, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of religion and all. We all must come together right now to save this country, to salvage this country from this situation. What does it mean for people to put their lives at risk, to waylay trucks, vandalize people's cars, steal food, cut away with people's millions of naira or even hundreds of thousands of naira invested in in businesses? We need to be very proactive. We need to act now and act fast. Those of you who are in the habit of demanding dollar for bribe at whatever level, those of you who are in the habit of changing monies, millions of funds, government funds, into the dollar just to save yourself, space where you keep your money, just to be able to secure the worth of your wealth. Be careful, because one day you may not be around to see if this continues, if we allow this to continue, for people to become as lawless as this. We really need to be careful. Subject of conversation, big subject of conversation this morning. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has also come out to refute and debunk the claims by the President of the Senate regarding the supposed 30 or unverified 30 billion naira given to state governments to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians in their states. Governor Seyi Makinde says no such thing was done. No such amount was given to them aside from the state government allocations that they receive, the statutory allocations that they receive from the federal government. But whether 30 billion naira or not, what are the state governments doing with the allocations that they get? Is another question. Very valid question. Because some of you in your states, there's no sign of development or infrastructure anywhere. Some of the north central states, you would ask sometimes if you go there if there is monies from the federal government on a monthly basis. Because some of the states do not have overbloated population, but you also do not see any sign of governance in those states. We pay attention to the federal government, and everyone says government, federal government. No, federal government. The governors themselves push and abdicate their responsibilities to the federal government. How many of you can boast of one industry that employs 500,000 people in your state? Just one. They don't even have to build these industries with their monies. All they need to do is make the investment environment friendly for people to invest, to be able to employ that number of people. I'm not saying 1 million people. I'm saying 500,000 people. Oh, let's even 500,000. That's a lot. How many companies, how many industries in this country, how many of your states have industries or factories that employs each 1,000 people. 1,000. Or maybe 2,000. Yeah, 1,000. How many? How many? You have in Nigeria that is so blessed, in states that are so blessed, you have people refer to them as civil service states or civil servant states. How? What sense does it make that the only employer of labor, of the biggest employer of labor in your state, is the civil service? So everybody is scrambling for the scarce civil service positions available. Yet governors receives billions. We're not talking about millions or hundreds of millions. We're talking about billions. People do not even understand the value of the monies that are touted to be distributed in this country. If you do, you would wake up to ask your governors questions. Do you know what 6 billion naira can do? But again, these monies are frittered away because, well, guess what? A road that would cost China maybe 100 billion naira would come to Nigeria. I mean, and any road that would $1 billion rather, or $1 billion. Yeah, let's say $1 billion, $100 million. Yeah, let's put it at that. A road that would cost China $100 million would be a road that stretches, a road plus bridges. And when we're talking about bridges, we're not talking about these tiny bridges. We're not talking about dual carriageways. Okay, we're talking about 5-6 lanes on each side of the road, and these roads would stretch several hundreds of kilometers. Well done roads. I saw a video where the Minister of Works was complaining about how the quality of work that these road construction companies do in the country. Now, after receiving billions or allocating billions for the construction of these roads, they still go ahead to do substandard roads for Nigeria and Nigerians. You know why? Because if 20 billion naira was allocated for maybe a 6-kilometer road, billion, that road in other climes, I know how they talk about the topography and all of that. Let's not deceive ourselves too much. That road may cost, if you convert to naira, maybe 1 billion naira, but would allocate 6 billion or 10 billion for those roads, and at the end of the day, right from the top, from whoever allocated it, takes a kickback, goes down all the way to permanent secretary, from the ministry down and all along